They said Clay is too controversial because he is saying men should not be competing in women's sports. Malcolm Gladwell, probably, I think, the most famous nonfiction celebrity author in America. Would you buy into that designation in terms of book sales? I don't know that anybody would have sold more copies than him.
It's him and Michael Lewis probably for
that's a good one.
The last 20 years or so. Those would be the two that I think are. I met him in France, by the way, for the iHeart event. So I actually met Mr. Gladwell for the first. We shook hands. I mean, he wouldn't, he had no idea who I was. I was like, hey, man, what's up? So yeah.
So I'm going to play a cut for him. I imagine a lot of you have read his books. Tipping Point is probably the most famous, but he's got a ton of different books, and I think he has a very popular podcast. So I would bet a huge percentage of you are familiar with who Malcolm Gladwell is. So let me take you behind the scenes a little bit here. I sold my company Outkick to Fox in 2021. On Super Bowl Sunday 2021, we made $2 million in affiliate revenue from FanDuel. That is that Super Bowl day, the company that I ran, we and founded. We were one of the top affiliates in the entire country. So if you were watching Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers go up against Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, our company, and to a large extent me, made more money than anybody playing in that game on sports gambling affiliate referral deals. We were, for FanDuel, which is the biggest sports affiliate company, sports gambling company in the country, we were either their best or second best affiliate partner in the country. Pat McAfee, who now is at ESPN, was also wildly profitable for them. We were their two best at helping to promote, and I love sports gambling. Obviously, we got a great relationship with Prize Picks, which ties in here with that. We made $6-7 million a year on that deal. That was important for us as a part of the company. Sold the company. FanDuel said they wouldn't work with me anymore, Buck, because I was too outspoken on the trans sports issue. This is a sports gambling company. They said Clay is too controversial because he is saying men should not be competing in women's sports. And FanDuel is worried about the controversy that he brings for being so outspoken on that issue. As a result, FanDuel refused to work with me. And as a result, refused to work with Outkick. So me merely saying men should not be able to compete in women's athletics cost the company that I founded and owned around $7 million a year. I don't know how much money you guys make, but $7 million a year for a media company is a big, huge part of what allows the company to be profitable, to employ tons of people. But as a matter of principle, I said I'm not going to stop talking about this, even though FanDuel is saying, well, you're too controversial for saying this. So the reason why I give you that backstory is it was, even though it's 100% the right thing to say, it took chutzpah. It took sometimes turning away from millions of dollars to say what I personally believe to be true and allow the company to be at the forefront of arguing this is absurd.
No. Not what you personally believe to be true.
Yes.
What is undeniably, unequivocally, obviously, and as clear as anything could be true, which I think is an important.
Yes.
You weren't penalized, Clay, for an opinion. You were penalized for a fact, which is a whole. That is Soviet Union level stuff. That is everyone is starving. Say the grain harvest is the biggest grain harvest of all time. That is a manufactured delusion, my friend.
And if you wonder, why did people not step up against this across all of sports? Only Outkick, and really only me at the forefront of this, were willing to make this argument. It's because the big advertising partners out there would grab you by the you-know-what, and they would squeeze if you tried to step out of line. This is the truth. Nobody else will even tell you this. I'm telling you directly, okay? Malcolm Gladwell came out. They have a big sports analytics conference at MIT. And they had a bunch of famous Malcolm Gladwell has a connection to sports. He's a big sports fan. He's done sports-related reporting and stories. And he and everybody else on that panel at I think it's the Sloan Kettering MIT Institute or whatever, refused to speak out against men competing in women's sports because the consequences were real. What I just told you, it could cost your company millions of dollars. It could cost you personally millions of dollars. It could impact your employability. They were very targeted in the way that they attacked here. And now he's come out. This just happened yesterday. And Malcolm Gladwell says, hey, I was bullied. I was cowed. I was afraid of the consequences. And now I'm going to tell you the truth. Men shouldn't be able to compete in women's sports. So listen.
If we did a replay of that exact panel at the Sloan Conference this coming March, it runs in exactly the opposite direction. And it would be, I suspect, near unanimity in the room that trans athletes have no place in the female category. I don't think there's any question. I just think it was a strange. The reason I'm ashamed of my performance at that panel because I share your position 100%, and I was cowed. The idea of saying anything on this issue, I was I believe in retrospect, in a dishonest way. I was objective in a dishonest way.
Okay, I give him credit for coming out and being honest about this. I think this is so incredibly important because there are consequences, unfortunately, when you are willing to speak the truth. I think your qualification's important there. This is not me arguing what the tax rate in Moldova should be. And we're sitting around and we're like, well, this is
dudes are not chicks and chicks are not dudes, and pretending they are is a lie. That is what this is.
But even in the world of sports, it's beyond that, Buck, because you're saying men don't have a competitive advantage, or you're sitting around, you're saying, well, we have to do studies. No, men are bigger, stronger, and faster than women.
But underlying all of it, and this has to be remembered, is that for example, and this is usually what we're talking about in the sports context, trans women are women indistinguishable and to be treated by society and the law as women. Indistinguishable from women in all respects, even though they're not women. That is the actual foundational mandatory belief of the trans movement, right? Is that Clay, what is the phrase? Trans women are women. Yeah. This is what they say. Trans women are women. And that's why they should be able to play in women's sports. That is a lie.
Look, we're a pro-military show. We have tons of respect for all the brave men and women who give so much to defend our country and our freedoms. That's one of many reasons we love our sponsor, Pure Talk. In addition to offering quality cell phone service at a great value, $25 a month, unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, they also stand proudly with our military. In fact, Pure Talk was founded by a veteran, hires veterans, keeping jobs at home. Doesn't stop there. Pure Talk has raised nearly $500,000 to prevent veteran suicide. They've forgiven millions of dollars in veteran debt, and they've given away more than 1,000 flags to veterans this year. If you haven't switched your cell phone service to Pure Talk, now's a great time to do so. Just dial pound 250, say the keywords Clay and Buck, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, that's pound 250, say Clay and Buck. Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team will help you switch in as little as 10 minutes. Pure Talk, a cell phone company worth bragging about.